Howdy folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Thursday, June the 14th, 2018, and I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming back to the show a gentleman who is the founder and CEO of a really great product that he launched in 2009. It's called the PMC Ounce, and he actually obtained a patent on this in 2013. It's been growing ever since. He continues to grow this product. It's a combination of the four precious metals. And I'm speaking of Mr. Chris Blasi. Chris, welcome back to the Daily Coin.
Rory, great to be on again, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. We have a lot to cover, so we're just going to jump in and make it happen.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go. You know, what you would call the globalists and all that. I mean,
Yep.
This is huge and massive. And as a matter of fact, I mean, personally, the big sorts of resets that people were hoping for, and which would be something also affecting the dollar and gold, until this came about, it wasn't going to happen. It was, they were holding it off.
Right.
And then the other thing I'll always say is, and be careful what you wish for, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, right, everyone says, "Oh, I can't wait till gold is $5,000 or $10,000." It's like, well, it's like a hedge. Yeah, the gold is at 5,000 or 10,000 because everything else is in deep trouble.
Right.
And you want to look. It's you got to equate it with life insurance, right? It's
Yes.
like, do you really look forward to collecting on that policy? You do know what the implications are, right? I mean,
well, see, so in the early days, and I always kind of take those types of headlines with a major grain of salt, or I completely ignore them, because in the early days, I've been in this for close to 10 years, and in the early days, I really wanted gold and silver to be, 10,000, and $5,000 silver and $50,000 gold, because I was going to be rich. And I didn't. And as I matured in this space and learned more about money and wealth, that, $5,000 silver and $50,000 gold, probably not a world I want to live in. It's probably not a space that is going to be, conducive to humans.
Exactly. And just think about it. I mean, if that was to happen, right, and you look at your friends and family, of which most of them probably don't have gold and silver,
Right.
And they're all wiped out and impoverished,
Right.
what kind of, think about it. I mean, you'll be isolated, right? And I mean, it's you really don't want that, right? We all want to be comfortable, right? And
Yep.
But if, the 1% of people who actually have gold and silver in this country became wealthy based on their gold and silver, and everyone around them, every neighbor, family member is impoverished, it's not going to be pleasant. So,
No, you're going to have a huge target on you.
Exactly. So it's like, yes, it's financial insurance. We know at someday it's going to be paying off big. We would all rather it just gradually go up, but unfortunately the powers that be haven't allowed that to happen, right? So, we couldn't have gold nicely at maybe $2,300 an ounce now, a little more fairly priced. They're going to take it to where the system has to break, and we're all going to wake up one morning and it's going to be dramatically higher.
And how do you see the next 3 to 5 years playing out for the metals? I mean, in silver in particular, because my audience is huge into silver.
Yes. I mean, that's, those are two things, right? Why we always talk about diversification of metals, because, as a dealer, we saw people pile into silver in 2012.
Yeah.
Right. There was a lot of analysts telling people it was imminent that silver was going to be, $100, $200 an ounce. And now it's deeply underwater. I think what's going to happen in the next 2 years is, with this new administration and a lot of the challenges or a lot of the courses that they're looking to take through trade and such, that we were going to see the much anticipated and long weighted breakout of the metals. And that'll be all four metals. Silver, of course, has the most catching up to do. So it's pretty depressed, and it will give those outsized gains that a lot of analysts have expected with the precious metals. But I would always caution people, just like in 2011 and 12, right? You still should be an intelligent investor
Right.
and be logically diversified in the metal. It's not a casino where you put all your chips on black, right? You're not going to, you're not going to miss out if you have some other metals in the portfolio to kind of balance it out, right? Be
Right.
logical, right? But that's the greed factor, right? Everyone's like, well, then I'll just go all in on one, and and silver will hit its stride. But we know that folks who went in heavy when it was in the 40s, 2011, 12, they're at 16 and change now, and it suffered way more than gold, and especially things like palladium, which have actually tripled in price since then. So, I still be smart, right? Still diversify.
Right, and don't allow emotion to drive the train. Allow logic and sensibility to be in control as opposed to, "Ooh, I'm going to be rich," because that always gets you in trouble.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think people, they're a little discouraged right this year, right? We had 2 good years, 16 and 17, where the metals went up, our gold went up, and now we're kind of trending sideways right now, actually down a little bit. But if you look at really the long-term charts, they're still very strong. And you need to be patient. And I know people say, "Well, I've been patient for so long." But if you've been in the metals for a extended period of time, like the folks who've been in it 10 plus years, you are trending up.
Right.
So be patient, be careful what you wish for. But things are happening in the last year or two, especially in trade, in a host of things that have not happened in a long time and appear to be truly transformative. And in any transformation where the old ways get challenged and maybe go by the wayside, a timeless asset like the metals will do very well. So be patient, hold the course. Don't get discouraged. Don't get frustrated. Don't get panicky. It's not like gold is at $700 an ounce, right? I
Right.
mean, it's not collapsing on you. So,
It's just kind of hanging
that's my
out.
position.
It's just kind of gold and silver just kind of hanging out in the same neighborhood that they've been in for, a while now. And personally, I think that they're just biding their time. And I've got a question I'm going to ask you in a minute that I think is going to kind of give us a little better insight into what you're thinking. But before we get there, I want to ask you about Trump. You mentioned Trump and the globalists just a second ago. How much impact do you see what's happening, not necessarily with the situation with North Korea in particular, but Trump as a whole and the disruption that he is creating within Washington, D.C.? Love him, hate him, it's not important to me. What's important is the fact that he is stirring the pot in a way that keeps the corporate media, the Chuck Schumers and Lindsey Grahams and John McCain's, Nancy Pelosi's, all of these people keeps them all off balance all the time. So the only card that they have to play is attack. He's a criminal. He's an idiot. He's a racist. He's all of these things that he's not. But how do you see what he's doing, being the disruptor, impacting what we're talking about?
The Trump phenomenon is the biggest thing, by far going on. There are folks who've made the comment that Trump is part of the globalists. He's one of the elites. He's part of the establishment. And to me, that seems all the evidence points to quite the opposite. I mean, he's at war with everybody. He's attacked from every European leader, Canada, Mexico, the Democrats, the Republicans, virtually 95% of the establishment media here, I would hardly believe anyone would be part of the group, part of the establishment, and take that beating. And if the establishment didn't need to bring in anyone to control in something that's a disruptor, or stirs the pot, as you said. So the strength, the ultimate power that basically funds what appears to be Trump's adversaries, which are the globalists, the elitists, funds the big banking that's allowed the formation of our economy, the destruction and liquidation of the middle. And if he's going to be successful, if he ultimately does win, that means he's going to have to change and get rid of the Fed and reboot the dollar. He couldn't be successful with that most fundamental institution who controls the money, decides who gets what, and sets interest rates artificially to continue on. It just doesn't work that way. So it's just like going after any criminal enterprise, right? Getting the low level person doesn't vanquish an enterprise. You have to get rid of the kingpin.
Right. Yeah, and you said, artificial. You used the word artificial. Is I call it manipulation, because that's what they're doing. I wrote an article about a year ago where I detailed the dollar, and it was born of corruption. The Federal Reserve note was born of corruption, and my personal belief is that everything that a corrupt currency touches must become corrupt in order to hide the lie that the currency is telling. Am I off base with that, or is that really what we're witnessing right now?
I agree. And right now, it's still strong. I mean, Trump has got multiple battles going on, but I'll just say, if he is going to win, then the dollar system as we know it with the Fed has to change. It can't continue on, or else there is no victory, right? There is no change. How could there be change if the same institution is going to pick winners and losers, and everyone's going to be sacrificed for the benefits of the big banks and the huge multinationals, right?
There you go.
So then anything else beyond that is just little window dressing, right? If the money is always going to be controlled by those who basically impoverish the masses for the benefits of the few, then even little things like building a wall mean absolutely nothing. So that will be the true test, and so that's why I would say continue to hold on to your precious metals, especially if you think he is going to be victorious. And even if he isn't ultimately victorious, there might be enough damage done that the metals will still shine. So I think that's where a person needs to have a reasonable position in their portfolio for true wealth preservation.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, Chris. That's really, thank you for that, because that's really what we need to hear. Is the truth is that we have to, the main problem, the enemy to humanity, are these private central banks, and everything else is window dressing. I love that. That is exactly it. And how do you see, with everything that we've just discussed, Chris, in particular, where Trump is concerned, and I want to come back to the metals, because what I'm about to ask is going to tie into that quite nicely, I believe. And how do you see the slow motion collapse in the mining sector affecting, in particular, how do you see the slow motion collapse in the mining sector affecting the metals? And it looks like gold is already more or less hit peak gold, and if it hasn't hit peak gold, in my opinion, we're very close. And how does the mining sector play out for the quote other precious metals, the white metals, the platinum, palladium, silver? What's happening there?
Sure. And so this goes to the reason that the the classic example of the why people who issue fiat money hate things that are tangible, especially if that supply starts to get constrained or collapses, because it leaves those who hold those scarce assets in a tremendously powerful position, as opposed to just creating things out of thin air.
Exactly.
So for those that hold the metals, obviously the collapse and the shrinkage and the falling off in production in the mining is a huge benefit. So when it comes to gold, it's the monetary metal, and that means the ultimate monetary instrument becomes more scarce. For silver, it's obviously the monetary component that's good for, but of course also the industrial component, because it is a critical component and input of a lot of products, and they're all the products in the most robust industries, right? Like technology and stuff. It's not like making buggy whips, right? And then and platinum and palladium too, right? Palladium has been far outpacing platinum. But they're indispensable for things like pollution control predominantly. They're scarce. And the collapse in mining is just, tremendous for those that hold the metals.
It really is. I think that what we'll see is, I mean, even though the World Gold Council is saying that gold is looking good over the next 30 or 40 years, I don't believe that they have any type of crystal ball that allows them to see that. But so I'm not exactly sure how they came up with that, unless they're looking at the same things that you and I are looking at, which is the mining sector being under a huge amount of stress and strain, and not being able to there's no 30 million ounce mines being discovered. There's no 10 million or 15 million ounce mines being discovered that I'm aware of. I mean, you may have heard something that I haven't, but there's just not a lot of those that are coming online that I'm aware of. And you mentioned technology, and technology right now, the fintech technologies are really at the forefront. And do you see blockchain technology or artificial intelligence impacting the banking sector? Or how do you see these technologies impacting our world? Or do you think they're just all of this is just a passing fad?
They're not a fad. Blockchain is going to be deployed across a lot of different industries. And I believe banking would love to go to blockchain, because as their fiat currencies fail, they'd love to move us to something that even takes more of your freedoms away and can track you even more. So what I believe will happen is that cryptocurrency will be ultimately issued by the central banks, or they'll try. I think it's going to be very difficult for private ones to truly survive. I know people believe that, like a Bitcoin, if it truly is, free, and able to function without interference, it's a lot more difficult than people realize. I mean, when you have to use the internet in order to move things around, I know people say, well, I'll put it to a thumb drive or something, but I mean, it's so fraught with the ability to be tracked, stopped, and obviously I believe that the people who are just blindly enamored by it because it's technology, they just love technology in any way, shape, or form, don't understand what freedom means, and to be able to take what you keep it to yourself, keep it private, and move it where you want. So but the central banks are going to love to introduce them, and they'll track you, and you can get into a very dystopian world, because once you fall out of favor, they can also cut you off. I mean, if you look at China with their social credit score, you see how they're right. I mean, that is a frightening development where you conform or they cut you out. You can't go on a plane. You can't get a mortgage unless you conform and think and talk like they want you to. So once they add digital currency to that, that just means, you know, they'll be shutting your bank account off. I
Which
mean, how people can't see that coming when you digitize everything, I find, you know, it's amazing. I mean, it's quite obvious where digitizing everything where it takes you, but you know, that's where we're going. And you know, I also see that you know, these bitcoins and cryptocurrencies continue to get stolen all the time from these exchanges,
yeah,
and there's no way of recovering them. You know, so therefore, the masses who believe somehow digital currency is going to be a savior to something, which I don't get. I don't know what's wrong with, you know, actual hard currency, but they'll say, well, you know, I want a digital currency where if my account gets pilfered, you know, the bank may, right?
right.
And just like, you know, and therefore they will go for a central bank issued digital currency, and that will be the final nail in their coffin for any.
Yeah, no financial freedom for you.
Not if you, not once we go to that world.
Right.
You know, and then you figure we'll go into that world, that will get ugly, that will implode on itself because it'll be corrupted really quickly. And like throughout history, when we've gone through, you know, grand super cycles, as they say in the world of Elliott, you know, gold and silver and the precious metals and things that are tangible like that and portable and divisible will always survive and come out the other end. And who's ever holding them will have something to work with.
We can only hope. I've got two more questions, and then I'll let you get back to your morning, Chris. And I wanted to ask you, we've discussed, and you've discussed, I should say, you know, balancing in one's portfolio, and we hear a lot of talk about a balanced portfolio of equities and bonds and precious metals and other investments. And you have, Chris, taken it to another level of diversification with the precious metals portfolio that lives inside a person's already diversified portfolio. You have your company, Neptune Global Bullion Exchange, Neptune GBX, and which is a full service bullion company. You developed the PMC Ounce, which is a diversified metal an offering that
Sure.
can you explain what this is and why it's important and how and the balancing out that it brings to the table.
Sure thing. So the what you're referring to is the PMC ounce, the precious metals composite. It's actually been in the market since 2008. Has a patent since 2013. And what it is, it's a instantaneous key physical precious metals position. So each PMC ounce is backed by a fixed fractional amount of gold, silver, platinum, palladium. That's all in a fully allocated, all consisting of good delivery bullion. So if you think of a PMC ounce like a pizza with four slices, one slice gold, one slice silver, one slice platinum and palladium, and those are weighted, right? It's weighted, and that is in a depository, and it's in a non-bank depository, which is critical and important,
Yes.
and it's in the client's name at the depository. And it trades in real time. It's not a fund. There's no fund management. It's a physical inventory that's just weighted and turnkey and efficiently priced. So it outperforms gold and silver and platinum and palladium, especially on a risk adjusted return, which when you invest in an asset, you're not only, if you're prudent and understand portfolio management, it's not just chasing return or going after return, but it's also managing risk. And the PMC ounce, because it has a logical weighting in all four metals, has less volatility, so it has a better risk adjusted return. If you go to our website, neptuneglobal.com, there's a chart right on the home page that shows that. You're getting the blended return. If you look at something, especially like silver, where silver spiked up several years ago and then came crashing down, you would see if a person had gone in the PMC ounce, you know, they wouldn't have had that level of you know, volatility. So the point is, it's still precious metals. It actually has a delivery option if the world goes to, you know, goes to a very dark place and you want to liquidate for distribution. But this has been performing as it was intended to for years now. It's been getting a lot of accolades and recommendations from some very well respected analysts. And it's a tremendous diversified physical precious metals holding gives you that instant diversification. And so for when you take that part of your portfolio, you still want diversification, right? As we talked about before, some people put all their chips on silver several years ago, expecting this big price move. It hasn't happened yet, and so that's not the most prudent way to have a precious metals portfolio. Right. So we've made it easy, efficient, and turnkey. And the PMC Ounce has been doing tremendously well in the market, and it's actually distributed, and there's other dealers who are now offering it and trading in it. So it's really getting a lot of traction, and especially a lot of new investors of precious metals who are discovering why they need to be in precious metals and are coming from what you would call the mainstream world. This makes perfect sense. They understand it. And, it's what they usually go with versus the more, we'll call it traditional forms of bars and coins.
I love this product, and it's weighted more towards gold. Is that right?
Yeah. So the weighting,
as far as it's got the four component pieces: the gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. But gold carries the largest segment. And why is that, Chris?
Sure. So there's the physical weighting, like the weight, and then there's the amount of dollars going into each metal. So you know that you really, when you look at allocation, you look at how much money are you putting into an asset, right? Like not units. Example, you just take the gold-silver ratio. If you had $100,000 and you said, I want to have a balanced portfolio, 50% gold, 50% silver. You don't buy 1 ounce of gold for 1 ounce of silver, right? That wouldn't be balanced. You'd buy $50,000 worth of gold and $50,000 in silver.
Right.
So the PMC Ounce, you have two. You look at the physical weighting, and this is all on the website. We have the pie charts, and you say, well, it's mostly physically weighted to silver. But to truly see the weighting, you see that, and we have a product called the PMC calculator that lets you do a trade, a fake trade, so you can see how much of the metals are purchased, plus what percentage of your money is going into each metal. You see a little more than 50 cents of each dollar, a little more than 50% of your investment is going into gold. And that's because in a physical precious metals portfolio, gold is still the primary metal, right? That is still the foundation. That's the monetary metal. Right. And then it's followed by the positioning and weighting in silver, platinum, palladium. And it's all, we have these tools like the PMC calculator. It's great for someone to come on and learn by, just going through that exercise, seeing what's purchased, seeing the money allocation, and it becomes self-evident of the logic behind it. So, that's what's behind the weighting.
I like it because it's gold is the king. It's the king of metals. How do you define success, Chris?
For the product?
The product? No. How do you, Chris Blasi, how do you define success? It's a question for you to give people an insight to who you are. So how would you define personal success?
Sure. All right. So I would say success is pursuing an endeavor, whatever it is in your life, personal, business, achieving your goals. And these would be goals, though, that are reasonable, measurable, but also doing it by doing the right thing, right? So, I don't see, and I don't have respect for success that someone achieves great monetary success through unsavory means, right? So for me, that may be success in some people's eyes. You've achieved material gains, but you've done it in a way that is unhonorable. So I believe it's achieving your goals in an honorable way, and that brings value to you, your family, and those around you, and the world at large.
Yes. If you're not creating a win-win, then you're creating corruption and devious activity or nefarious activity. That is not success. That is corruption. Exactly. It's not success.
The corrupt way is the zero-sum game, right? Where
exactly.
I only do better if you suffer loss.
Right. Yep. You lose, I win. It has to be
Exactly.
win-win. Otherwise, it's worthless. It's no good.
Exactly.
It does not count. And is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with that we may not have covered, Chris?
I would just say, the metals have been trading sideways. I know that a lot of people who are either in the metals or thinking of getting in, or maybe feel a little bit frustrated or discouraged. I think that is not the mindset and attitude to have. I think you should be grateful that it's trading sideways for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
For those who are still building their positions, you still can before prices get away. And also, once we do hit the financial storms that are definitely on the horizon, even though those holding gold and silver will probably be seeing great price appreciation, it's going to be a very unstable world and there's going to be a lot of negatives. So, precious metals are still like insurance in the sense that you want to have life insurance so that if the breadwinner isn't around, that those who depend on them can be taken care of. But do you really look forward to exercising that insurance policy, right? There needs to be loss. So my thing is, you know, build your position, have that wealth set aside for you and yours. But don't be too anxious to see gold at $10,000 and $25,000 an ounce.
Exactly.
We all like to see it start to creep up and be a little more fairly priced, but it comes with a price. $25,000 gold, as some analysts are calling for, that comes with a price.
And probably one that we don't want to pay. And I think that I'm sure you're familiar with James Turk, and he gave one of the best descriptions of gold that I've heard so far, and that it's a thermometer, and that it's one of its main attributes is to measure the health of the economy. And as the economy becomes weaker or sicker, then gold starts to rise, or the temperature of gold starts to rise and begins to tell on the economy. And that's one of the main reasons that we have the suppression in gold in particular, is because that hides that truth from the people. People can't see it. There's nobody saying, well, why is gold $2,000 an ounce? It's been kept in a cage around 1,300 for 2 years. So there's no questions around it.
You're exactly right. I mean, if you really look at this economy, everything is propped up, manipulated.
Yep.
I mean, the auto industry is propped up by subprime car loans, right? The college industry, and that's what college is. It's a business.
Yes.
Is propped up by student loans that are at an astronomical default rate, right? So there's nothing honest, right? There's no free markets. It's all manipulation. So therefore, the last thing an economy that is completely, the underpinning is all based on manipulation and fake money creation, wants is the one thing out there that calls it out.
Exactly.
And that is the precious metals.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's why if you're in the metals, you have to realize that you're standing for kind of financial truth. And like Trump, I mean, you're going to be the one that they're attacking. I mean, they're not attacking you personally, but they're attacking the price, the price of it, right?
Right.
Keep it suppressed, keep it modified, keep it caged. But if you believe that ultimately, a corrupt system will break and there'll be a reset, the only few things that you can be in that will survive through something like that is things like precious metals. And though people will talk about real estate, as a hard asset and it'll always be there. Well, that's true, but it's got so many issues to it. Lack of divisibility. It's still not mobile. It's still under the jurisdiction of a local government that can tax it and take it from you if you don't pay your taxes. That is hardly a substitute for precious metals.
I would agree. Eminent domain. Let's not forget that as well.
Yeah, and how about income property? Income property is only good if you have a renter that can pay the rent.
Exactly.
Right? That's called counterparty risk. So you can own an apartment building and say, hey, I've got a cash flow of this, but if the cash isn't flowing and you can't get it out of them because the economy is collapsed, who wants it? What good is it?
Zero. Chris, tell people how they can follow you on social media. Give them the website address again and any contact info you want to share with them.
Sure. The greatest source is always to come to our website, neptuneglobal.com. That's neptuneglobal.com. There you'll have contact information if you'd like to speak with someone. You can hit the contact tab. There's lots of tools. Again, we're a traditional precious metals dealer, but we encourage people to learn more about the PMC Ounce. As I mentioned before, the PMC Ounce is even sold through other dealers, and there's more coming on all the time. We just had an old line, very respected dealer, Asset Strategies International, joined this week. So the PMC Ounce is really proliferating, but we encourage people, visit the site. Feel free to reach out to us. No pressure. We love to talk with people, and if they want to learn more about the product, just let us know. And in a very relaxed way, we'll just help teach them and educate them, and they can make a decision if it's right for them or not.
I like it. And all the links will be in the description box below. And Chris, I certainly appreciate all your time this afternoon. This has been awesome, and I look forward to speaking with you in a not too distant future.
Rory, thanks a lot for having me back on the show, and it was great catching up. And if I don't talk to you soon, have a great summer.
And you as well.